We are very excited today because we're with Nicole McGeehan of Penn State Extension, and we're going to do some canning, right, Nicole?
Yes, we are.
So just tell everybody a little bit about the program.
Our mission is to take the research and developments from Penn State University and disperse them into local communities like home food preservation and food safety.
I love it. All right, so what are we doing exactly today?
Today we are making blueberry jam, and we are going to preserve it so that it's shelf stable and it can last you all year long.
I love it. We love blueberries, and it's blueberry season.
Yes.
Perfect.
So we're gonna start, and we've already done this with good food safety, like washing our hands, cleaning our countertops, making sure all of our equipment is nice and clean, and making sure that any of our produce that we're washing it under running cool water. Once we do that, we're gonna start mashing. So I'm gonna turn the pot on, and we already have our blueberries. They've already been washed, and we're just gonna add them one layer at a time into this pot. And I like to do it right into the pot, then we have less dishes to do later on. So
I like the way you think.
Yes. So we're gonna add one layer here.
All right.
And then with a potato masher, but you can really use anything. I've done programs where I forgot my potato masher, so I just use the bottom of the jar. We're just gonna mash these blueberries, and we're gonna do that one layer at a time.
So we're making jelly or jam today?
We're making jam. Do you know the difference between jam and jelly?
Not really.
Okay, so the difference between jam and jelly is with jam, we're gonna use the whole fruit pieces that we're gonna mash up. With a jellied product, we would take the fruit and we would get the fruit juice from that, like putting it through a cheesecloth.
Oh, okay.
And then just using the juice and jellying the juice to make the jelly. So we're heating this mixture, and you can see there's starting to be a little bit of bubbles.
Yeah.
So while that's heating, I'm actually gonna show you how we're gonna measure the sugar, because we do have to do it exactly. So whenever it comes to canning, you always wanna make sure that you're using research tested recipes, and I'll talk a little bit about the resources that we should use.
All right.
And we want to follow them exactly.
Okay.
Because this product, if it's kept at room temperature, we want to make sure it's safe so that it lasts all year long.
All right.
So with our sugar, we have to measure that sugar exactly. So we're going to measure 5.5 cups of sugar. I like to use 2 different bowls so that I can kind of overfill the measuring spoon.
Right.
And then using a straight edge to make sure that it's an exact cup. So we're gonna do that 5 times.
Alrighty.
That's 2.
And how
I
many?
like to count out loud so I don't forget how many it is.
Okay.
So we're gonna add our other ingredients. So with jam, the first ingredient obviously is the fruit. With this specific recipe, it's called a blueberry spice jam. So the spice is some cinnamon and some nutmeg.
Excellent.
So we're gonna add that.
All right.
Next, we're gonna add a tablespoon of lemon juice and the pectin. The pectin's going to be what helps it to gel. This is powdered pectin. And then we're gonna add a little bit of water. This recipe calls for 3/4 cups of water. So once we bring this recipe up to a full rolling boil, a rolling boil is gonna keep bubbling while I'm still stirring.
All right.
So we're gonna be very dramatic when we add this sugar. We're gonna add it all at once.
Oh, wow.
So we're gonna dump this whole thing in here, and you're gonna see that it's really gonna start to turn into the jam now.
Nice.
And we're gonna stir that in, and we're gonna bring this back up to that full rolling boil. This recipe does make 5 half-pint jars, the jelly jars. They're 8-ounce jars. Or you can even use 4-ounce jars, which I like to do for gifts, because if you're doing like a charcuterie board or something, you can put like a soft cheese on the charcuterie board with a little jar of this 4 ounces of this jam or jelly that you make, and that would be a great accompaniment for your charcuterie board. And it's already in a little jar. Yeah. So now that we've added all the ingredients and we're at a full rolling boil, we're gonna set a timer for exactly 1 minute. Once this 1 minute is up, then we're ready to start filling our jars.
Exciting. And we're ready.
All right, so our 1 minute timer is up, and we're gonna turn off the heat. If you notice, I had a little pat of butter over here.
Yeah.
The reason for that is if you look in the pot right now, you might see there starts to be like a little bit of foaming. So this butter is gonna help decrease that. It's only a very small amount of butter. It's 1/4 teaspoon. It's not required, that's optional. It's just to make the jars look prettier.
Yeah, it gives it that nice finished look.
Yeah.
Right? When we come back, Nicole shows us how to properly can our delicious blueberry jam. Okay, what's our next step?
All right, so we've reset and we have our canning pot here, and we have our jars heating in the canning pot, because we always want to put hot liquid and hot jars so that we don't shock the jars.
Do we need to wash them before, or are they going to get sterilized in that pot?
So if you're processing for under 5 minutes, we do need to sterilize them ahead of time. So you can do that by just washing the jars with some warm soapy water and just putting them in your canning pot and bringing that to a boil. That's going to sterilize the jars. I'm just going to dump out the water, put it on a protected surface so that it doesn't crack. Now we're going to start to fill the jars. So when we're filling, we want to make sure we kind of stir in between each ladleful so that the fruit pieces stay evenly separated throughout all of the jars.
Okay.
And it's important to fill it to a specific height, and that's called headspace. And headspace is the difference between the top of the product in the jar and the rim of the jar.
All right.
And for this recipe, our headspace is going to be 1/4 inch. We're going to use a tool for that. This is called a headspace measurer, and it has little notches on it. You line that up here, and we can see looks just about perfect there.
You're right on there.
Yeah. So we're going to wipe the rim to make sure that there's no jam or any sugar or anything on the rim, because that's going to affect how the jar will seal. Next, we're going to add this 2-piece lid. So this is the flat piece, the lid, and then the ring band. These flat pieces, we don't recommend reusing them. They have a sealing compound underneath, and when they get heated, the sealing compound indents. Then we're gonna put our screw band on. These also can be reused. When we put them on, a lot of people think that they have to crank it down really, really tight, but actually we don't wanna do that, because if we crank it down too tight, the air can't escape during the canning process. So we call it fingertip tight. We just twist it on until it gets a little bit of resistance. And then we're gonna put that back in the canner, and we're gonna start our next jar. With our ring bands, I actually have one over here. The only time we wouldn't want to reuse these is if they get like really rusted or dented. Then we don't want to reuse them because that can affect how the jar will seal.
Okay.
This is the size of a water bath canner, so
that's big.
It's big. So if you're doing a lot of jars, you might want a big canner like this. But for me, I have a pretty small family, so I might only do like one batch at a time.
Right.
So I actually just use my stock pot. We want something that's nice and tall because we do have to have about 1 to 2 inches of water over top of the jars. And there needs to be a rack in there. And I just buy some round cake cooling racks. And I just put that right in the bottom of my saucepan. And that way I can do smaller batches. So once we have all of our jars returned to the canner, we want to make sure that there's about 1 to 2 inches of water over top of those jars, and actually it doesn't look like there quite is right now. So I always like to keep a pot of boiling water on the back of my stove so that we're not adding cold water at this point since the water is already warmed up. We're going to put the lid on, we're going to crank up the heat, and we're going to bring this pot of water with our jars in it up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, we're gonna start the timer. Depending on your altitude, depends on how long you have to process them for. If you didn't know, as you go higher up in altitude, it decreases the boiling point of water. The recipe is normally just a 5-minute processing time, but if you're above 1,000 feet, you have to actually increase that to 10 minutes of processing time because the boiling point of water goes down. So while we're waiting for those jars to start cooling, I just want to talk about some of the resources that we at Penn State Extension that would say that they're safe resources.
Okay.
We don't want to just go onto the internet because there's a lot of scary things out there. So we want to be careful where we're getting our information from. We have a series of handouts. It's called Let's Preserve. And the recipe from today is actually in one of these Let's Preserve fact sheets. It's called Jelly, Jam, and Spreads. These are free of charge. You can download them from our website at extension.psu.edu, and we have a whole series of them on all different topics. Another resource that me and a few of my other coworkers had authored is called this Preserving Food at Home Resource Guide, and it's actually a compilation of all these Let's Preserve fact sheets, but also our PA Produce Guide. We kind of put everything all together in one. So not only does it give you the information on how to preserve the food, but it gives you like the nutrition facts, how to store it, and things like that as well. And this is also available on our website at extension.psu.edu. So now we're gonna take these jars out, and it may be tempting to like try to like tip them and put the water off of it as you're pulling them out, but we actually really want to emphasize that when you're taking these jars out, you're lifting them straight up, over, and then onto a protected surface. We don't want to put them straight on the countertop. Again, that can shock them. We would recommend waiting, once we pull them out, 12 to 24 hours before even checking the seals. Because if I go and I push this seal down right now, that's going to be what we call a false seal. So we don't know if it actually sealed on its own or we forced it to seal.
Okay.
After that 12 to 24 hours, if you have any jars that didn't seal, you can just put them in the refrigerator and just use those up within the use those up first within the next week or so.
Yeah.
I'll show you what to look for.
We just had a pop there.
Yeah. So things to look for in this jar that I've already previously canned is you can see on some of these, like the button is still sticking up, but on this one it's pushed down.
Yes.
So you can kind of like push on it. You shouldn't hear like a clicking noise, and you should actually be able to like kind of hold it by the lid, and it won't fall out into your hand.
Okay.
So once we've waited those 12 to 24 hours, we can safely check the seals. Then we're gonna take the ring bands off and clean around the rim just in case there's any like residue or anything. Over time, if you let that sit there, it can affect the seal and make the seal fail.
Okay.
Once we do that, we want to store these in a cool, dry place. We want to label them with a Sharpie so we remember when we can them, so that we know to try to use those up within a year. And when we store these, we actually want to store them with the ring bands off, and that's so that if anything happens in this jar and the lid pops off, we want to know not to eat it.
Looks so good. Look at this. Isn't it beautiful?
It looks delicious.
Give it a test here.
Came out really good.
Nicole, it is delicious.
Yeah.
And we made it ourselves.
We did. If you wanted to find any of our recipes or resources, you can go to extension.psu.edu. We have fact sheets, we have articles, we have news stories, and we even have webinars, live webinars where we do demonstrations, so you can even watch us from home.
Excellent. It's such a great resource. Thank you so much for having us here.
Yeah, thank you. I had a great time.
We did too. Thanks.